Hey guys, welcome back to Comic Quirks with your host Jimmy. That's me, obviously. And to the right, we got Bueller. Comics with Bueller. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Jimmy. How you doing, man? Wake up. Get your ass up, man. Come on.
Hey, I'm awake. I'm just not feeling good. I'm just really trying to push through this right now. You're a big YouTube channel.
I doubt it, but that's all right.
Relatively big in the YouTube comics genre. Because I don't see a lot, like many YouTube channels about comics get past like what 50,000. There's very few. You got like Gem Mint, who just hit what 100,000.
Yeah.
And then you got Comic Storian and Comics Explained that are the 2 million.
Yeah, there's it's very rare. Actually, it's very rare to get above a few thousand for dedicated comic book channels. I mean, there's a difference between comic book channels and character comic book channels. Like if you look at like Variant Comics, they got millions of subscribers, but they're more of a character based. They're not really based on comic books themselves.
Right.
They're talking about characters and like origins and stuff like that. Same with like Comics Explained, kind of similar to that, to where dedicated comic book channels who are talking about new books or stuff that comes out, and actual comics in the halls and just showing the books themselves. Very rarely do they get above, just a few thousand subscribers. So, I mean, it's a very, very small niche for sure.
So, how did you start into the YouTube? Because I know you had like a break of comics.
I started just on the simple fact that I wasn't doing anything at the time. I've said this before, and it's pretty basic. I just wasn't doing anything, and I needed to do something to fill my day because I was just playing video games. I was just home. I wasn't working, and kids were out of the house. They're older and stuff, and a buddy of mine called up and said, "Hey, there's a comic store down the street just opened up. You should go check it out. I remember you were in the comics back in the day." I was like, "Okay." So I drove down there and went to the comic shop, and I hadn't been to a comic shop in like 20 years, and sold my collection back in the 90s and stuff. And
what'd you get for it?
What's that?
What'd you get for it?
Ex-wife. That's what I got for it. That's exactly what I got for it.
Damn, dude.
As far as monies go, I don't know. I couldn't really. I remember we bought a car with part of the money and stuff at the time.
It's good.
And some other stuff, but I had sold some books before that, so it wasn't all like one lump sum.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went into the comic shop, I kind of remembered my passion for it and bought some books out of the 50-cent boxes and came home and typed in comic books on YouTube and started watching some videos. Excuse me. And just decided to make a video. So I thought might as well do it. They're doing it. I'm not doing nothing. So there you go.
What was the comic book that you picked up though, like when you first got back?
I couldn't remember. But I do remember asking the comic shop guy, "Hey, what should I read? I've been out of comics for a while," and he gave me a copy of Astonishing X-Men by the Whedon guy.
Joss Whedon, yeah.
Yeah. So he gave me a copy of that, and it's the first 4 issues. I was like, "Oh man, that's really good." So I can remember him handing me that. Then, as far as what I bought, it was just probably a bunch of 50-cent books I remembered from back in the day, that were still in there.
Fenrir asks, "Do you believe the recent comic book industry has been under bad management?"
Yeah, I sure do. I think just go look at Jerry Conway, what he posted on Twitter last year, as far as what the comic industry should look at to run right now. And his tweet was just right on the money. I mean, everything he said is what the industry should be doing. And he ran Marvel for a certain time. He's obviously a comic book creator. He created the Punisher.
Who is this?
Jerry Conway.
Oh, Jerry Conway.
Yeah, he created the Punisher, created Firestorm, a whole bunch of others, and he ran Marvel for a while. But I mean, he tweeted out. I met this gentleman. He's really, really nice. But he's like, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? I mean, there's literally like 8 different steps that he points out that they could be doing right now that wouldn't cost them too much money, and that they don't do, like advertise like in movie theaters or,
Yes. Or in the movies that they're even making.
Exactly. I mean, if comic books can advertise movies in the comic books, why can't the movies advertise comic books? And vice versa, or just have like comic books in the damn movie theater, like at the, have like some free giveaways at the, when they come out, when they're going to see Avengers or something, or, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. I wish I knew exactly what the quote said. I remember I used it I requoted it on one of my coffee videos back when he did it. And this was a few months back. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff. And I think there's some publishers that do a better job than others. But I think the main two, which are the ones that kind of hold the industry up, which is Marvel and DC, they could do a lot better job. A lot
especially DC with what's happening right now. It kind of sucks. Justin Carguth, did the prices surprise you, or do they now when you came back?
Yeah, the prices as far as like new cover price for books, I mean, I can't stand them. I think the $3.99 right now, they're going up to $4.99 probably this year on a regular basis. Even like the main guy over at Image last year, he said comics are too expensive. He said the cover price is too expensive. He says $3.99 is too much, and that's one of the reasons why Todd McFarlane still has Spawn at $2.99.
Yep.
It's really the only book as far as major player book that's only a $3 cover price,
and it's a quality book too. Even when it's cheaper, you can still get quality paper and everything.
Yep, I think $2.99 is the ideal price for a book. They're not going to go down. Let's just face it. Stuff just doesn't go down in price. When they're selling at a certain price, they're not going to lower it. But I think it's more inviting to people for the $3 price point or a $2.99. Plus, if you're at a shop, you usually get a discount if you're a box holder, so it comes down to a couple bucks. But yeah, I think the price is. I'm pretty cheap when I buy books. So I mean, I don't spend a lot of books. I mean, the most I've ever spent on a book is $60 in my whole collecting lifetime. And that was hard.
I think the most I spent was about $90, and it was for you can't see it, but the first appearance of Hellboy up on my wall. But that's like a grail to me.
Yeah,
I don't think I would not spend more than that much.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, I wait. I wait a lot. Like when I see a book come out and it's $8.99 cover price or whatnot, it's some special thing, I'll wait a few months and then it'll go down in price. Now I have a comic shop that my LCS doesn't sell back issues. They just sell current stuff, and after a couple months they discount everything by half. And so I know that if I see on the shelf they got a bunch of copies of that book, there's a good chance that they're going to have some a couple months later, and I'll just wait and I'll pick it up for half the cover price.
So do you like the community on YouTube? Because there's a lot of people, like a lot of great people. Like we know your friends Comic Tom, and what's Simple Man Comics, I think. Do you think the community is like very strong, and do you want it to grow more than what it is?
My cat just jumped up here. You couldn't see it, but she was right here. She might come back around. Yeah, I think the community is one thing that drawed me to do the YouTube, was the community aspect of, hey, there's other collectors out there that are doing this, to where that never really was the thing. I could only name one or two other collectors I knew of, when I was collecting comics, and that were actually like friends. And now I consider myself to have hundreds of friends that either do YouTube or don't do YouTube. That's the thing about the community. There's the YouTube part, then there's just the viewer part. Don't do the videos, or they just watch, but they participate in the chat and they talk a lot. So just because you're not doing a video doesn't mean that you're not included, because you are. And so when you add all that to it, it's pretty cool. I mean, there's some bad apples out there that you kind of like, oh my God, give me a break, and sometimes it's a broken record with them. But after a while, and I tell people, I go, if you have an issue with someone or whatnot, I go, just make good content for your audience and focus on that. And
right.
And if you have an issue with someone, and if they're making good content, well, then it's more power to them. And because it's all about the people who watch the videos, and the people who watch really don't care if you have an issue with someone else. They just want to watch good content. They just want to watch something entertaining that provides, somewhat of value towards comic books or whatnot. Something interesting.
An
They don't
escape.
care. They don't care if you don't like such and such, or if such and such doesn't like you. They just want to watch some content. So
Yeah. So you also went to a Comic-Con, I want to say last year, and you got to interview Chris Claremont?
Yeah, that was the year before.
Okay.
But yeah, it was Chris Claremont. It was actually me and Tom hosted his panel.
Oh, he was part of it. Cool.
Yeah, and I was actually the host of the panel, and then Tom was there, and I asked Tom if he wanted to join me and to host it, and Tom's like, "Yeah, sure, that'd be great." So Tom joined me on stage. So it was me and Tom hosting the panel for Chris Claremont at the Washington State SummerCon.
And how'd that come up?
How did as far as like doing the panel?
Getting to the point where they asked you to host.
Well, the Washington State SummerCon, it's local in my area. It's in the Pacific Northwest. It's in.
I'm in Washington State as well, by the way.
Oh, you are? Okay. Did you go to that con?
I was not able to that year. I was
man, you missed out. That was awesome con.
Man. I was in the middle of finals, man. I wanted to go. I did, especially for Chris Claremont.
So I saw that there was a con there, and so I filled out a press application on their website, and the guy who runs the con, his name is Steve. He contacted me, and we actually talked on the phone for like 2 hours. And he was like, my hat's off to him, because I've been invited to cons to kind of cover their event, and some of these cons they just invite everybody. They're like, yeah, sure, you can come and cover it, whatever. They don't care. And but Steve took the diligence to go check on my channel, and he's like, he goes, I've had a ton of people ask us to cover the event, and he's like, why would I? And he flat out said this. He goes, why would I let someone come in here who nobody watches their stuff? I'm like, okay. He's like, I'm putting out the bill for all these creators to come and do all this stuff, and here I'm just supposed to, have these people come and just do whatever they want and cover, maybe put a bad spin on my con. I go, I get it. And he goes, I looked at your channel, and he goes, people actually watch your stuff. I go, well, thank you, I appreciate that. And this was like a year and a half ago. And so the audience was, wasn't as large as it is now, but it was still decent. And so he's like, yeah, I'd like you to come and cover it for me. He goes, you're kind of going to be the official person who does it. I'm like, okay. And he had some ideas. And this is about 2 months before the con. And then unfortunately stuff happened. He got really busy, and some of his ideas he just couldn't follow through on. So it was like, I didn't hear from him, and I was like, okay, that's all right, because he had a huge lineup, and I didn't want to bother him and stuff. So he called me the night before. He's like, hey, I still want you to come down, but some of the stuff I had planned, he goes, I just wasn't able to make it happen. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so I go down there and stuff, and he knew what I looked like. I didn't know what he looked like and stuff. And I'm there at the con on opening day, and he comes up to me. He's like, hey, Bueller. I go, oh, hey, you must be Steve. He goes, yeah. He goes, and he's like, hey, I really appreciate you coming here and stuff. Whatever you can do, I'd appreciate it. He goes, are you a fan of Chris Claremont? I go, yeah. I go, sure. And he goes, good, because I need you to host this panel. Can you do that? And I was like, sure. I've never done that before. I was like, okay.
Like getting dropped a golden apple, man.
Exactly. And then he asked me to do Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair, which is Jim Lee's right-hand man.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so I did their panel as well, and that was the first one. Those two guys, and then an hour later, I had to do the Claremont one, and but I wasn't going to say no, and then so we did those, and then the next day Jim Lee was coming, and he wanted me to do the Jim Lee panel, and unfortunately Jim Lee brought someone with him to do it. That he had a guy who does it. So that was my first experience into that, doing the panels and stuff. And then me and that Steve guy became pretty good friends over last year and this year. Then unfortunately his con was canceled, and but he had a huge lineup, and I was going to host almost every panel this last year. And then he just sent me a email for this year for the reschedule. And he's like, oh, I got all this stuff planned, and he goes, I want you involved and everything. So it's probably going to be a busy weekend this next time. hopefully it happens. That's the thing. You
Well, I'm
still,
gonna try to go to that one so I can say hi to you.
yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully it does happen.
Fenrir asks, do you think superhero movies are killing comics because they don't help the comics grow and only take from them? That I'm not sure I agree with the last part because I got into comics because of the movies.
Yeah. I don't think they're killing them, but I understand what he's saying. I think they could do more for comics. Let me put it to you that way. I don't think simply having more stuff out there representing these characters kills the characters. But I think they're, like I said, I think that the movies can do more for these characters. I don't think like you just said, the movies got you back in the comics. I think people should see, it doesn't happen that often, and I think it should happen more, to be honest. And so I think there's room to grow, and I think it's up to the movies to kind of promote the books. Like I said, have a commercial for the King in Black comic series before the movie starts, or something like that. And
that would be one to get people in shops with. Damn, yeah,
exactly. Or keep your ticket coupon and go to your local comic shop and get a free comic or something. I don't know, something like that. And do a promotion where they run that. But no, I don't think it's killing it. I think it's any more exposure you can put on something at all is, when you get millions and millions of people going to watch Black Panther, then they learn the name of Black Panther, who that is. I wish it would translate more to comic book sales. It doesn't, but at least it's something,
Yeah. So you have a comic book coffee talk show.
Sure.
And I feel like it's one of those things like I love sometimes when I wake up, just put it on. It's nice, chill, get to talk about comics. And it's a good way to start the day. Tell people what you do with that.
Well, it's on Monday mornings, first day of the week, 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is a pre-recorded video I do with my friend or co-host Bob. Sometimes I've had some guest people on there, depending on if Bob can't make it and stuff. But we ask a topic earlier in the week, and then we get a bunch of comments about that topic. We'll get a couple hundred comments and stuff, and then we just read those. We'll go and pick like 10 or 12 of the comments, and we'll read those, and we'll just kind of elaborate from those comments that they read. Like the last topic we did was reboots, and what was your opinion on comic book reboots and stuff like that. So we just pull from that from the comments, and then we just add that to the show. And sometimes it can get pretty, because we don't hold back. It's not like we're like, there's no like agenda or nothing like that, so we'll read any comment. That's the thing. It's like I like reboots, I hate reboots, and we'll read both. It doesn't matter. And a lot of times I will look for comments that will help us get to a certain thing. Like I was looking for a comment that talked about X-Men last week, because X-Men rebooted like 6 times over the last 2 years, and somebody said something about X-Men. I was like, perfect, because I want to talk about the X-Men. So I do that a little bit as well to get to where I want to talk about. But it's a very relaxed show, and I try to do stuff that I've dipped into myself to where, you asked me earlier about, hey, do you have any of your Bueller boxes, which was my mystery box. And so one time we did and I've sold thousands of those boxes and stuff. And but one of the episodes was our mystery box is a scam, and that's literally, that's the name of the episode. And I put that out there because I have my feet in there. Like I've done it, I've done mystery boxes. I think I could talk on the matter a little bit, and I don't mind talking about it. I want to hear people's opinion on it. Another one is, the do top 10 lists hurt or help the market or whatever? I do a top 10 list. So I don't have any problem like just hitting on whatever subjects. And I like and a lot of times subjects people don't think I would probably hit on because of their stuff I already do, and but I mean, I have opinions on it, so I don't mind sharing it, and I think it's a good it's a fun conversation. It's not like me and Bob we're laughing like the whole time. I mean, you've watched it. We're just sitting there laughing. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
I consider it sort of like you've seen comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of what
it's like that. Two guys in vests getting coffee, talking comics.
Exactly. That's pretty much what it is. It's we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're having fun. As far as the information we're providing, it's not 100% accurate, to be totally honest. It's just two guys and our opinions. And, I get stuff wrong all the time. So by no means, I want people to think I'm like the end all know it all of comics, because I'm not even close. And, but I can tell you what I see, what I feel. And, like I said, it's just, a lot of times we'll sit there and it's like, oh, we just sit here and talk for an hour and a half. We didn't accomplish a thing. And that's kind of what we said. We'll say, and Bob just laughs and stuff. He goes, yep, you're right. And I go, yeah, okay, whatever. So, but new episode tomorrow morning. It's a kind of a Q&A one. So they're getting longer. People they used to be like 40 minutes. Now, then they were like an hour. Now they're like an hour and 20 minutes, and people still like them. So I don't know. That's
helps your watch time.
Yeah, it definitely helps my watch time, and the audience is growing. Like, that used to be my least watched show. It's like now it's my most watched show. So I mean, we've had episodes that do over 10,000 views. Wow. And I never thought they would hit that much and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And now we have multiple that do that. So
you're also sponsored by a coffee shop.
Yeah, I mean,
I wish that could happen.
I mean, as far as sponsor, I mean, here's the thing. I go, if you want to say that they're a sponsor, I've said that for a long time. It's a local coffee shop. I mean, they've got two shops here in Oregon. So it's not like my audience who watch from around the world are going to that shop. Okay. They don't sell anything online. They're just local. But what it is, it's a friend of the family who owns this place. I've been going to this coffee shop for 30 years. It's one guy. He owns it. He's like one of the nicest guys in the world. My kids have worked there. My mom goes there. He's open every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. He never takes a day off. And he's just a wonderful guy. And he's like, hey, he goes, because he knows we're going to be drinking coffee. He's like, oh, I'd like you to drink my coffee. I go, who else coffee do you think we drink? He's like, oh, that's true. So we put that on there. But I have had people come into town, and I took them to the Mocha Express, and I get them a coffee whenever we go there. So his name is Malher, and he's just a wonderful person. So I mean, just to be able to say his company name every week, it's kind of cool because he's a good friend. So
good. And so you were just a month and a half ago, over in Florida for another con.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
What was that about? Because I know you didn't just go there for the con; you also went around and checked out like tourist spots and stuff.
Yeah. So the con actually invited me to come be a guest at the con, which it was called Infinity Toy and Comic Con. And it's because I have a couple of connections in Florida, so I know a guy. Yeah, I know a guy type thing. So I'm like, sure, that sounds great. And I said, as long as everything is like safe and on the up and up and stuff, and as long as they're doing like things that need to be done, it is a public event or stuff. And let's say, yeah, we have all the precautions and everything. I go, okay. And so I was only going to be down there for a few days, and I was like, there's so many people in Florida that I've met through the comic book YouTube and stuff like that. I was like, hey, do you mind if I extend my trip by a few days and just kind of hang out in Florida? And my friends will take care of the rest. And they're like, sure, that's no problem. So I was only going to be down there for like 3 days, but then I extended it to 7 days. And so for half the time I'm there for the con, and with the gentleman that kind of made it happen. And for the second half of the trip, I went and stayed with friend Steve Whiting, and was with him for like 3 or 4 days, and he kind of put me up in his house with his family and stuff. We kind of drove all around from Tampa, Florida to Miami, Florida to Orlando. We went all over the place. We went to probably like 20 different comic shops.
Awesome.
And I was at 2 different Comic Cons that we were at. The one I was invited to, and there was another one the next day. And
check out the competition,
Well, it was more of a horror fest con, they had some comic books, but it was more of the horror convention type thing. And not like Ladies of the Night, but like right. But
okay.
But it was a lot of fun, and I was surprised I mean, here we're in the Pacific Northwest, and I think our news outlet says, oh, in Florida, they don't really, nobody's really taking precautions and stuff. Everywhere I went in Florida, man, everyone was wearing a mask. I got my temperature taken like 6 or 7 times.
That's good.
Every time. I mean, everything was open. I mean, movie theaters were open and like restaurants were open, where they're not open here.
Right.
And but I felt just fine. I mean, every place I went, that people had masks on. My temperature was taken multiple times, like I said. When we went out to eat restaurants, at the convention, they spaced out everything pretty good. So at no time did I feel like I was, at any risk. We even went to Disney World.
They're open.
Universal, they're open, yeah. I mean, but they have like huge, long testing things. Like they have a whole parking garage that's dedicated to like processing people and taking their temperature and all that stuff. So you walk through this maze to get in, and I was like, oh, once you get in there, it's wide open. So I felt pretty good.
Dominic Powell just asks, what are your thoughts on a modern creatives being agonistic towards fans of no comics, but pop culture in general? Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay. What's he saying?
Saying, what are your thoughts on like modern creatives being mean towards people of not just fans, but all pop culture?
I think it's just the individual himself, really, that are just, some people are just dicks, let's just say it. Some people are just, they just look at the negative things and just like the cause problems and stuff, and that goes on every walk of life. It doesn't matter if you're creating comic books or you're, manufacturing cars. It doesn't matter. But obviously, when you have a voice that's going to be heard from multiple people because you're in the quote entertainment, and comics are a form of entertainment, you're going to be heard a little bit more. I mean, I don't really pay attention to stuff like that, to be honest. It doesn't really interest me, because we don't.
I find it like as if as long as you're not being a dick towards them, they won't be a dick towards you.
Yeah. I'm kind of on my grandma said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. So I just don't say it. So it's like,
right.
If I hear something like, I even said something one time. Somebody left a comment one time on and this is just recently, and they left a comment and they pointed out the 2 mistakes I made in the video. And I quoted something wrong. It's like a half-hour long video. And the only thing they said were the 2 mistakes I did. I said, are we married? And that's all I said. That was my comment back. I go, thanks for pointing that out. Are we married? And they just laughed, because that's something your spouse would do or something,
Oh my God, that's great. Ryuk just asked, do you think continuity in comics ruins the chance to pull in new readers? That's a good question.
You got to start somewhere. And we just talked about the reboots, and I like continuity in comics, but there's always a new storyline that comes up that's part of the continuity either way. Kraven's Last Hunt is a storyline you can jump on and read that. But I mean, there's 250 issues before that of Amazing Spider-Man that you could read as well. But you can just read Kraven's Last Hunt and then kind of go from there. So it's up to Marvel does it to where they always have like a little synopsis at the beginning of their books that kind of, is supposedly catches you up a little bit. So you can kind of jump in and read from that book or whatnot. Some do a better job than others. But another thing is, as I've gotten older, my tastes have kind of switched as well to where I kind of switched over to independent books, and I enjoy independent books way more than I enjoy Marvel or DC stuff. And you don't have to worry about the continuity of those because they're all original stories, and they're, besides maybe a handful of independent books, most of them, don't get past the 100 issues, to be totally honest, or even close to 50 issues. But, like I said, as I gotten older, 90% of the stuff I read are independent books.
Yeah, a lot of my books I'm reading right now are independent books, and they're my favorite. And it makes me upset. Yeah. I love my favorite hero is Superman, and I love it more than anything. But yet I'm not getting like the best story.
You're not liking that Brenda stuff, are you?
I'm a huge fan of Bendis, but right now, but oh god, yeesh, no. I'm happy Philip Kennedy Johnson's taking over. That
Yeah,
guy's
yeah. That
uh,
Bendis is a very nice gentleman. He just doesn't write Spider-Man or Superman that well.
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Um, and my favorite book right now is Oblivion Song by Kirkman. I have 3 of his books on my pull list because
that's right.
they're fantastic. Firepower, great. Walking Dead Deluxe, first time reading Walking Dead, and this time it's in color. So I know I have Walking Dead for the
Yep.
next 8 years at least.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I just started getting The Walking Dead because I never got it when it came out, so I'm on this one. Oblivion Song has been one of my favorites. I've picked it up from the very first issue,
Yep, me too.
and I remember that one and Gideon Falls came out like the same week,
Yes.
and I was like, which one do I get? Which one do I get? And I went with Oblivion Song, and I'm glad I did, but I also kind of regretted not getting Gideon Falls, so I'm kind of going back and getting those now too. So.
Okay, so Bueller Dragon is a fan of your show, Dragon Ball Talk.
Yep.
He said you have a story. Bueller met Spawn's wife, I'm guessing McFarlane's wife, as a kid. It's a good story.
No, it was Spawn's wife. No, but no, my Todd McFarlane's wife was my either history or science. I think it was history. It might have been science teacher in high school back in the day. I think it was '91, and Wanda or Miss McFarlane or whatnot. She was our teacher, and somehow somebody found out that who she was and realized that that was Todd's wife. So once we found out, we kind of bothered her quite a bit. Say, hey, will Todd come and say hello to us and stuff? There was just a handful of us kids and who were kind of in the comics at the time. This is right around Amazing Spider-Man when he was doing his run on those in the Spider-Man book. So finally, he agreed to come to the high school. So he came and met with us, and there was only like 5 or 6 of us that met with him in an auditorium. And we sat there for a couple hours, and Todd showed us how to draw Spider-Man and talked about a bunch of stuff. And I remember I asked, I go, how do you draw Spider-Man? And he goes, come here. So I get up, and he goes, here's this pen or pencil, and he's like on this, he's got his easel and stuff. He goes, draw 2 lines. So I just go like this. And he goes, that's how I draw Spider-Man. And he goes, I just take 2 lines, and I try to make his body fit into those 2 lines because at the time Spider-Man was really all over the place and stuff like that. And so he drew that, and and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And of course we were all just like starstruck at the time and stuff. And he came back one other time, I believe. I think he came back twice to kind of show us, and then they were gone the next year. They moved to Arizona. But yeah, that was really cool that we got to meet him. And then it was funny because last year they were here. Tom McFarlane was here in the Pacific Northwest. They were doing a signing at a comic shop, him and the rest of the Image CEOs.
Oh, nice.
And this actually works out pretty good because earlier I mentioned that guy Steve who ran that Comic-Con. Okay. Steve was at this event, and he was actually Todd McFarlane's handler at the event. And I ran into Steve. I'm like, Steve, I go, hey, can you do me a favor? I go, can you, I wrote this note to Todd McFarlane, like, hey, I met you as a kid, or whatnot, thank you so much. I go, could you give this note to Todd for me? He goes, let me just go get Todd. I go, okay. He goes, just stay here, I'll go get him. And I'm like, all right. And so he goes and gets Todd, and he brings him to me. And like I said, this is just last year. And I'm like, hey, Todd, I go, I don't expect you to remember me by any means, but I go, you might remember this event. And so I told him, hey, when I was a kid at Clackamas High School, he said, oh yeah, you were one of Wanda's kids, as a school teacher. I go, yeah. He goes, oh yeah, I remember coming to there, and we were talking. And then he asked me, Todd asked me if he can take a picture of me and him together. And I'm like, I go, you want a selfie? He's like, yeah. So he takes a selfie of me and him, and he sends it to him
for a selfie.
Yeah, and he sends it to his wife, to Wanda. And he wrote her a note, hey, this is one of your students from Clackamas High School and stuff like that. And then so we talked for a little bit. It was really cool. And then like later that day, I had him. He was doing signatures, and I had my high school yearbook from that year, and I had him sign my yearbook. and it says it's a Todd McFarlane, wife of Miss McFarlane and stuff like that. And him and Mark Silvestri was there, and he's like, and they were giving me a hard time. He's like, oh, is there a picture here in Wanda? I go, yeah, because I had a little label and I showed him. He goes, oh man, look at Wanda, and he shows Mark, and Mark's like, oh man, she's awesome. And he's like, oh, is there a picture of you? And I'm like, sure. And I go flip to it. And he goes, and Mark Silvestri looks at me and he goes, Wanda aged a lot better than you did. I'm like, thanks a lot, dude. I'm like, dude, he's like just cracking on me and stuff, I'm like, this is awesome. And then finally I had to go because I was holding up the line and stuff. But I've since been in contact with Todd's agent, and we're supposed to possibly do an interview this year. So should be a lot of fun.
Look at you, man.
We'll be able to talk about this story, but it was really, really cool. It was so neat because like somebody there took a picture, okay, of me talking to Todd McFarlane, because I didn't have they wouldn't let people take pictures I don't know what the deal was, but somebody took a picture of me and Todd McFarlane talking, and then they had it on the Instagram, okay, and then the picture said, oh look, here's Todd McFarlane, and then somebody saw the picture and said, they put, oh look, there's Comics with Bueller as well, and that's how they tagged me in the picture. And then I went and I found it, and sure enough, it's me and him talking, face to face and stuff. And like all the comments, none of the comments on the thing were, oh wow, that's Tom. None of them said, oh wow, that's Tom McFarlane. They all said, oh look, Comics with Bueller with Tom McFarlane. I was like, and the guy who took the picture was like, who the hell is Comics with Bueller?
Oh, that's fantastic. God, I had something to ask you right after this, but that story was fantastic. Oh, okay. So I went to Eastern Washington, and I was there, and then while I was going there, I was like looking up Todd McFarlane, trying to figure out like his story and stuff like that. And I found out he played baseball for Eastern Washington University.
Oh yeah, he was.
And I was like, he came here. And that gave me some hope. Like, okay, he came here. That means I can make it too. Yeah. And then come to find out, he worked at my comic shop while he was here. And so now I'm just like, what is happening? What's up?
He likes the Pacific Northwest. He was in Washington for quite some time. And, I think his family moved down here or something like that, because he's Canadian.
Yeah.
And then, when they left Oregon, I think they've been in Arizona ever since. So back in 92 or something like that.
Yeah, he stayed he lived in my city of Spokane, Washington, while he was in going to school, and then when he graduated, waited for Wanda to graduate. And I was like, how did I not know this?
Come on, man. You need to know this stuff.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, well, if he makes it, I can make it, but probably not like the same length, because I'm a writer, and he's what is he, like $30 million? Something like that. That guy's
he's doing all right.
He's doing just a little, not that bad. Yeah. So let's do a couple more questions right before we wrap up. Well, this will be the last one. It's easy to blame the writers, but how much blame should the editors? Should the editors, especially group/top editors, get for the current direction of the big two? They should be the ones to respect the characters the most.
I don't know. I guess you're right. It's, I don't know. When I look at stuff like that, honestly, and maybe I'm a little naive, but I don't really think about it that much. I kind of, like right now for Marvel, I'm reading like 3 books, and I read like Thor, I read Venom, and I read Daredevil. And I like the way the direction is for those characters. So the other ones I'm not reading because they don't really interest me that much. So whether they're taking Captain Marvel or Captain America or whoever in a different direction, if I'm not reading it, I couldn't be able to kind of tell you anything about it. And, as far as like DC, I mean, I read Batman and that's it. I mean, Batman's my only title that I read everything.
Pick up Swamp Thing. I promise you.
I did buy Swamp Thing. I did get for the Future State. I did get that one. That was the only one. That was the only one that interests me at all. But like Batman, Swamp Thing's only 2 issues, so it'll be done really quick.
Well, they're doing a full series.
Another one after that one. I read Deceased by Tom Taylor. So really, I mean, I'm not reading like a whole bunch of like Marvel or DC books to be able to sit there and say, oh, I don't like the way they're taking the direction of these characters, because I'm not up to date on them. And the simple fact that I'm not up to date going back 20 years because I wasn't collecting for a long time.
Right.
And so, I mean, my history of Superman goes back to when he died in the 90s. And then I haven't really read anything since then, to be totally honest. And so the only stuff I'm aware of is what I'm reading right now. So there's obviously been huge changes over the years, but if I'm not reading up on them or not aware of them, I probably don't do a very good job talking about it, because I wouldn't know what to say and I wouldn't know what to compare it to.
Well,
I hear it a lot. What's that?
You're only going to talk about what you like, and so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I remember like when I started, comics publishers were sending me comics to do reviews and stuff like that. And I really don't do reviews either way, but they're like, hey, even if you don't like the book, if you want to give it a negative review, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. And I told like one publisher, I go, here's the thing. I go, I don't want to sit there and make a negative review on stuff. And I go, if I don't like something, I just won't waste my time and do a negative review. I just would do something else. It's like, I'd rather just find something I like and talk about something I like, as opposed to talk about something I don't like. I've spent plenty of time in my life talking about stuff I don't like. It's now time for me to talk about stuff I enjoy, because I enjoy that more. It's a lot more fun. It's like, oh, I hate this television show. Let's talk about this television show. No, I want to talk about a TV show I enjoy talking about,
Yeah.
And so that's why I told him, oh, we understand what you're saying. So I go, and that's just kind of the way I kind of direct the channel. So if it's something I don't really enjoy, I have a very short attention span. So I know within the first few minutes if I don't like something, I don't even finish it. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't finish it. I got about 10 minutes in that Wonder Woman movie. I was done. That new one, I was like, I don't like it. I watched
it. I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I 10 minutes, man. I was done.
Actually, you quit at the worst timing too, because it was horrible at first. I was like, okay, this movie's gonna suck. But right after that, when it was like the main story, I was like, okay, the story, it was fun. I like that. It was good. But that mall scene was bad.
Yeah. Well. Oh well. I guess I missed out. I'll get the next one.
We've been 42 minutes. Thank you everyone for showing up. I have been Jimmy. To my right, thank you so much, Bueller, Comics with Bueller. Check out his channel. Check out that coffee talk, which is tomorrow, you said?
Yeah, tomorrow, 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
So much fun, guys. It's really, really enjoyable. Check it out. And I'll see you when I see you. I don't really know when I'm going to be having another interview because school just started and I am swamped.
There you go, man. Awesome. Yep. Well, thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you guys.